Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Monday, June 8th, and the time now is 9:06. Notice for this budget hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. The first public notice was issued on Monday, June 1st, and the second was on June 4th. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 282-35 LS, the fiscal year 2021 Appropriation Act as requested by the governor, relative to the Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disability, DISID, fiscal year 2021 budget request. Joining me for this budget hearing this morning is the Oversight Chair, Senator Therese Terlai, and our Legislative Secretary, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Kelly Mars Taitano, and Senator Jim Whalen. The general rules for this budget hearing. Those testifying on behalf of the department, I will recognize and are now invited to the panel. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide any legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. So testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. But this hearing is all for DISID, so take all the time you need. Testimony shall be confined to the substance. We're talking about the budget for DISID, and that's all we'll be talking about today. Persons will be allowed to present oral testimony only once, but we will continue on with all the testimony you need to provide. Once you're done, you may be asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony, as may be desired by the members of the committee. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and or may be asked to leave or escorted from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the panel members from the Department of Integrated Services and Individuals with Disability to rise, and for our Sergeant of Arms to please swear them in. Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. We will now begin to discuss the budget of DISID. Ms. Fittis, young girl, ma'am.
It says green. Can you hear me? So thank you very much for having us here. Again, Chairman and the senators here, members of the Guam Legislature. We're here to present you to the DISID we'd like to present the DISID fiscal year's 2021 budget request. Just want to read what you already have, but just kind of quick overview of our mission. So DISID's mission is to improve services for persons with disabilities by serving a single point of entry to provide, promote, and ensure a full continuum of lifelong programs and services that allows independence, productivity, and inclusion into the community. DISID shall also build partnerships with local and federal governments and recognize the efforts of all organizations, partnership, and local and federal governments, and recognize the efforts of all organizations and agencies associated with providing quality services to persons with disability. As per Public Law 24-16, DISID serves as a public service to coordinate and provide comprehensive community service, vocational rehabilitation services for eligible individuals with disability. As you know, there's two divisions for DISID. There's DSS, which stands for Division of Support Services, and DVR, which stands for Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. The Division of Support Services is responsible for, I just want to touch upon a couple of things, is responsible for development and community services delivery system, which includes the designs, implementation, administration, coordination, monitoring and evaluation of programs and services for persons with disabilities within the limits of local and federal resources that are allocated. The goal of the DSS is to increase the number of individuals served through quality programs and services that promote independence and affirm the dignity of individuals with disability. We do have some goals, but I just wanted to touch on just two. And again, you have your handout there. So number two, one of the goals is collaborate with GRUA, Guam Housing Corporation, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, and the homeless. And the next one would be to collaborate with Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness in referring to clients of Community Rehabilitation Program, also known as CHP, and Respite Care, also known as RCP. Okay. So as we come before you, we're here to present our budget requests. So DISID's budget request for fiscal year 2021 from the local fund is $1,043,079. From the general, and when it's divided, it's $465,419 in the general fund. From the Healthy Futures Fund, $577,660, which is a combined total of $1,043,079. The current staffing pattern for the Division of Support Services consists of director, deputy director, 3 social workers, and a secretary typist 1. The amount of $233 from the Healthy Futures Fund is allocated to cover salaries and benefits for the director, deputy director, and a private secretary in the DISID director's office. However, we will not be filling the private secretary position. $181,024 from the Healthy Futures Fund is allocated to cover salaries and benefits for 3 social workers in the Division of Support Services. A Secretary 1 was hired on March 3rd, 2020, and is not included in the staffing pattern. However, personal costs for the private secretary in the director's office can offset this position. A total of 4 staff members are funded under DSS. $43,165 is allocated to cover the operational costs in the director's office and the Division of Support Services. This will include office space, supplies, telephone, fax, the contract services. The director's office and Division of Support Services has a combined total of $514,422 from the General Fund and Healthy Futures Fund to cover personnel and operational costs. $17,623 from the General Fund is allocated to cover up to 10% of the salaries and the benefits for the Fiscal and Administrative Services Office who work on the non-VR related activities. $364,426 from the General Fund is allocated for the VR local match. With this amount, DVR will receive up to $2,085,461 in federal funds. $100,000 is allocated for Job Cope services. $31,262 is for the General Fund, and $68,738 is from the Healthy Futures Fund. From fiscal year 2020, the appropriation of General Fund, I'll just give the total that we have for fiscal year 2020, was given to us for $1,027,172. For the fiscal year 2021 budget request, it comes out to, like I said, $1,043,079. So in our current staffing pattern, as you can see in the handout you received, is there's a vacant position for Secretary 1 that has been filled. There's a social worker, an office aide, and a DSS administrator. This DSS administrator could be in lieu for our deputy director. For the proposed for the fiscal year, which is not allocated in funds, is the Management Analyst 3, Program Coordinator 1, and Program Coordinator 2. I was able to watch some of the hearings that you already had, and I know one of the questions you asked was the Governor's CARES Act, Governor's CARES Act budget. So I just wanted to touch on it, and if you have any questions, I know that you would ask at the end. DISID received my apologies. DISID received a total of amount of 73,154, 33,400 for 12 laptops, roughly around 30,000, and then 6 MiFi devices and Zoom that we want to make sure that we have. So the purpose for us requesting this is, as we know from the medical experts, we know from WHO, World Health Organization, and CDC, Center Disease Control, that there's going to be another wave for this coronavirus. So we want to make sure that we set up our employees with success with these laptops so they could reach out to their clients and build that relationship if it need be teleworking, and that's what we were doing in the past couple of months. So right now we are not equipped with Zoom in our office, and that's something that we want to make sure that we allocate, because it's a personal use that our employees have been using right now to communicate when I do my Zoom. So I purchase a Zoom on my own too. So that's what we'd like to use. That's what we'd like to use for the CARES Act, the Governor's CARES Act budget. That's all because I was just going to be covering the budget on the local side, and so that's what I touched on the DSS side. Are there any questions?
Yes, Ms. Phillips, who are you with?
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is Rita Sotomayor. My apologies. She's the ASO.
Okay. I have a simple question. You identified the 73,154 from the coronavirus, from the CARES Act. And that's to assist you in upgrading your technology, basically. It's for full technology, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm loud.
How does that impact your current budget requests? Was there anything in your budget? Because, we'll be scrubbing that and seeing if there was anything in your budget that asked for any upgrade of technology. Did you have anything in your budget?
We do not have anything for our current budget for the budget requests of 2021. So right now we are actually going to be using that CARES Act to support the request for our social media, all the things that we need to move forward when it comes to technology.
Understood. Thank you. What is the status of of obtaining job coaches?
Okay. What does that mean? What's your question?
I beg your pardon?
I don't understand the question. So the job coach is contractual right now. So we have a vendor that supports our job coach.
So you have no problem with your job coaches right now?
That is correct.
Okay. The only reason why I was asking that was because when I look at your budget, you started in 2019 with 37 employees, actually total 39 FTEs. In 2020, you went down to 36. And in 2021's request, you only asked for you asked for 35. And you have a shortfall comparison between 2021 and 2020 of 61,000. So I'm trying to understand, as you presented your budget, are you asking for that 61,000 that the governor didn't give you to be restored? Is that basically what you're asking for? Because I want to make sure that your agency is whole, okay? Because on many occasions, Madam Director, there's been agencies where what they need to survive or just to keep providing their services, the administration would actually recommend a lot less. And being that you're here and your oversight is here, and I know it's fully supportive of what you folks do, we want to make sure that you do make the spill to ask that it be restored. I'm identifying on the analysis of all would be that the variance between 2021 and 2020 is $61,000 total. You have, I'll give a good example. Special funds is -5, federal matching is 77, -77. So Unless you have a, what is your total budget request you're asking from us? Let me try that one then.
So the total budget request we're asking for is $1,043,779.
Total, and that's with the federal matching?
That's for the, yes.
Give me the total wrap up
Oh, the
because,
total of what we receive, including the federal?
yes,
Okay, it's,
because you know, you need general fund to match your federal. So give me what your total is. Don't just give me local because then I'll go ahead and minus the other parts that you need for federal matching and that doesn't help you. So what is your total should be like 3,128.
yeah, I'm
Right?
so sorry. I forgot to bring my glasses and I can't
No,
see it.
no problem. But is it 3,128?
Yes,
And the reason why I ask that is because when you do the comparison of 2021 and 2020, you're running a negative 61, less than what you asked for in 2020. Because in 2020 you had 3,189,634. Are we tracking? Am I correct?
Yes.
In 2020. In 2021 you're asking for 3,128,540. And I'm just trying to make sure I understand that you don't need the 61,000. And if that is so, then so be it. We will just move along.
so this is a building year, I mean, not a building year, but because we definitely would like it, but we're going to start out slow, coming back and
Okay.
making sure that we do the appropriate measures that we need to be successful. So that's why right now, as we build to 2022, when we build to 2022, making sure that we had the appropriate funds.
All right, then thank you. Senator Therese, the oversight chair of DISID, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Let's just start off with the CARES Act then. The money that you're going to get laptops and Zoom technology, but how is that going to help you with your clients? I mean, do you think if their homes are not equipped with the similar equipment that they're going to be able to interact, or what is the intent?
So we do have some clients that do have access to Zoom. So we're doing options for our clients, whether it be through Zoom, because we do have people that are afraid to come out. So
Okay.
Zoom,
Okay.
come in, email, or phone call. Those are the options we're providing our clients, whether it be on the DSS side or the DVR side.
All right, and is there any, I guess, besides providing the Zoom platform for them or the invite, what about for them? Is there any of that money that's going to actually get out to them for MiFi or anything like that they might need?
Meaning if they need additional services with the Zoom?
Correct. No,
So-
if they need for those who maybe are not
Financially stable?
correct.
Okay, so the benefit that this can happen is if they're a DVR client, and of course if it's with their job, then we can help support that.
Okay.
So in other words, if they're teleworking, and it just happens to be, I'm just making up a scenario.
Yes.
It just happens to be at behavioral health, and they have to do teleworking, then we would be able to support that.
To assist them in they're teleworking. Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, so on the budget, as the chairman has said, it's listed here as a little bit less than your FY20 level, 68,000 less than your FY20 level. And I guess that's surprising to us that we're gonna, go less. You're one of the few agencies that has gone less than the FY20 level. So we just want to make sure that this is not going to impact client services.
So, excuse me, like I said with the chairman, this will we will be able to make sure that our clients are receiving the services, and then when we come back for fiscal year 2022, whatever we need the accommodations, and specifically, I know this happened before COVID, I understand that, but there's a lot of adjustments that needs to be made right now. So with that said, then we'll be able to move forward with 2022.
All right. All right, and so some of your costs actually went up. Office space went up by 18,000. Supplies went up about 3,000, but you had zero listed there last time, I think. But Uh, But then most of what the increase, or the changes are, as you described, were in the personnel, the way you've decided to allocate the personnel. A lot of it, well, the new ones look to me to be management type or in admin side. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So what's the course of action that we are planning to take is behavioral, the permanent injunction has been lifted from behavioral when it comes to the respite, the Caradot, and CHP. So that will be coming back to DISID. And so with the support of the deputy director, the deputy director will oversee and manage and then make sure that whatever DISID want to be successful, we don't want to go through another permanent injunction and it goes back to another agency. So we're making sure that we literally have been having so much dialogue with behavioral for the past year, at least 6 times. So this is one of the guidance that they say, this would be best that we have a managerial positions see fit to be running this and making sure that we're aligned with everything we need to do, dot our I's and cross our T's when it comes to these contracts coming back to us.
All right, and what about the vacant positions that remain in your staffing pattern? Is that impacting services?
No, ma'am. So we were fortunate, like I said, on March 3rd, that we were able to hire a secretary, so that really does help us. And then also with the DSS administrator, we can have the deputy director also make sure she supports that and monitors at the same time. The one that we would like to definitely try to fill, and again, we're going to be entertaining that later, is one of the things that we'd like to make sure in the current staffing pattern is our social worker.
Social workers?
Social worker, yes, ma'am.
How many?
At least 2, but right now we're just trying to request for 1. We did lose one, just like every agency that I've heard come up in testimony, some of the employees are moving to other agencies because of pay, and this already had 3 employees leave because of pay and 1 retire. So that's the predicament we got put in 2019, and again, and there's other factors, even down to, because I know another question was, what's happening with your clients and your contingency, that are they receiving support? 2019 for DISID was really a rough year. Like I said, we did lose 4, 3 to different higher position pay, 1 to retirement, 2 members of our employees lost immediate families, and then 1 gave birth. So we had a really trying year of 2019, and again, we're currently building back up, and with your support, I know that this will happen.
All right, well, I hope that the building can take place like within a month or 2, and that the rest of the year can really, we can be full on with the services, because, we've been hearing it also that, they still think DISID can be more than it's current.
And I agree with you, ma'am. So just to piggyback on your comment, it just so happened right before the COVID, we did 3 interviews. We did interviews for the VR worker, counselor, and we were ready to make those phone calls to say, hey, we selected you, can you come on board? But we were asked to cease, just like you've been told that we can't hire, we're making sure that we get them, and now we're going to be activating that phone calls again.
All right, so you will be filling the vocational rehabilitation counselor?
Yes, ma'am.
That one, you're going to be filling it, and
There'll be 3 coming in.
Okay, great. And then the division support services administrator, you said, what are you keep mentioning it with the deputy director? That the
For
deputy
DSS
will support.
side? For the DSS side, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, so what we were going to try to do with the DSS side, with the support of the deputy director being brought on, not only would they be watching, not only would they be supervising and monitoring the contracts that I had mentioned that will be coming from behavioral, we also just started, which should have been implemented in 2015 on the DVR side. There's a thing called pre-ETS. Pre-ETS stands for pre-employment. It should have happened in 2015. They received training, but it never happened. Okay, so it started in 2019 when the month of October, the ND month, we were able to reach out to high schools. We did high schools, and then PHRS stepped in to help us, and we did a full-blown pre-ETS. So it was really exciting to see. And we already know that due to the pre-ETS, which is considered the high school level, we're going to have significant numbers. In one of the handouts you have, it shows that currently our counselors are entertaining, and I'm only talking VR side, ma'am, entertaining 80 to 100 clients per person. So that's not even giving them the opportunity to really go step out and try to network with employers. So me personally, Ms. Sotomayor laughs at me because I actually went out and did some training too. I actually helped train 167 governed Guam employees with the help of Barbara Moffness. So that's how much we're hurting. And the background with the support of the Deputy Director will help us do some training. Even the liaison, the relationship that we can build with DVR and DOE. So pre-ETS is new to Guam. So this basically is saying, hey, are you ready? Are you ready to actually have a job? So we want to make sure that the parents understand that before they have a job, that their basic life skills need to be implemented. In other words, can they go to the bathroom by themselves? Can they do their hygiene by themselves? That's not job related. So we want to make sure that parents now start building on that and making sure that they help mold it so when they get to us, it's job coach related. So we can train you on clerical. We can train you on planting.
So your outreach, the pre-ex outreach to the high schools is to prepare them for the job assistance that you might provide later after high school. And so you're getting them and their families prepared for the prerequisites for job placement.
Yes, so.
But you're saying you got 80 to 100 clients per counselor in the high schools?
No,
Okay.
that's just what they have now.
Okay.
So if the student of pre-ETS is interested, because they have to be eligible too, so there's an eligibility form they have to fill out, then that's going to add, if you think about
On
it.
top of the 80 to 100.
Yeah,
I see.
I came from the high school. The high school itself, there's probably at least 200 students with special needs, one high school. How many high schools are we servicing? This is not only DOE, this is charter, this is private, homeschool. That's all the schools. Anybody can come through the door and ask, find out that they're eligible, and that's how we work it.
All right, so how many counselors do you have? I mean,
Right now, ma'am, we only have 4.
All right. One of the questions.
And I'm only talking counselors, okay?
Yeah, and I know that we've spoken about this, especially, regarding last year's budget and, throughout the year. But so I know that having a deputy, and I've heard only good things about her from people she works with at the different schools, and that she's a very capable person, perfect probably for the job. The only question is, filling a deputy versus some of those other positions that are actually, client-based positions. And I guess maybe, I don't know, can you touch on that a little bit?
So with the support of the deputy, having a deputy director, when you build that relationship with all the organizations from private to public, nonprofit, building that relationship will only make it go stronger. And then once we establish that relationship better and getting that outreach, the relationship, and then another thing that we want our deputy director to do is start applying, help out with the grants. Because there's a lot of grants out there for people with disabilities, and that would be on the DSS side that we can build up. Because I know that you all know, like in 2014 or 15, they had a lot of grants for people with disability, but we don't have them right now. So that's
Yes.
one of our goals that we're going to start entertaining with the training that we can receive from DOL, because they're the ones that are I know that I've received a lot of support from DOL when it comes to grant writing, and that's something that I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to work on the Goodwill project, so as in bringing goodwill back. So that's something that's happening that Vera de la Cruz has been stepping in, and these are just private citizens that are coming forward trying to help us.
All right, and then, so is there any CARES Act, not the one that's being distributed here on Guam, that CARES money that the governor got, but is there any other CARES money for persons with disabilities that your agency might be receiving?
So right now I've been networking with GURA, Mr. Ray Tapasna, and Ms. Liz Napoli. So there was one that had to do with disability, so they said that there'll be one to apply for that, so they did. And then another one that came out to Art St. Augustine from Public Health, he applied for one, so we're currently networking with him, and this is about the 60 and over for the elderly, and we're trying to work a program where some of this, as you know, some of the people who take, some of the legal guardians and parents are over 60. So there may be services that they may be able to receive, like food, that they can get while this is happening during summer. So Art said that, St. Augustine said, let's just work it. But they still have to fill out a form. You know, he gave us the form. So we're currently working on that with GDOE because obviously there's HIPAA. There's things that we have to make sure that the parent agrees that they're willing to be on this program. So yes, ma'am, those are the two programs that we are currently reaching out to others that have been, that already applied for the CARES Act and received the monies.
Can you talk about services? This is my final question, but can you talk about services for those with visual disability? Or do you believe that the DISID's work is up to par in this area?
Okay, so we know that we have two vendors that help us and support us. They're contract members that come in and help with our clients, and whether it be at the job site, whether it be at the school because of pre-eds, or whether it be at home. They actually do come in also, even though they don't have to do the services at home, they've actually just taken it upon themselves to help them at the house.
For those who are visually
With
impaired?
visually
What
impaired
about,
and blind.
helping them also to get jobs? Do you have those kind of outstanding requests for assistance in those areas?
Well, right now, Mr. Eddie Regis has been working that piece for us too. He's, me and him have been a lot of dialogue regarding that, and making sure that we come up with, even down to technology, being able to have a certain screen. I forget the name of the screen, but you know, working that piece with Eddie Regis right now, Flame Tree.
You mean the nonprofit or the he's in hiring people? What do you mean by that?
Both. So whether it be hiring people, like you said, and trying to, again, look at other grants that can help out with people that are visually impaired and blind.
So what would you say do you have a list of people that are not, their needs are not being addressed?
I do not have that. Yeah. No.
Okay.
So I do know that there have been phone calls and emails. So the counselors did receive all the emails, because there was a counselor that, you know, she doesn't have the capability of having internet access at her house. So, and this, you know, so medically speaking, there was an issue. But anyway, she came in and she's addressing, she actually has several of the visually impaired and blind. So she's working that piece. And there's another individual that's a counselor that's working another side of that, of the visually impaired and blind.
All right. Well, I appreciate the work that you've been doing, both of you and your whole team, and especially in these trying times. And I hope that we don't lose the connection that you had established with all the people who are in need. And there are many more that we need to outreach and really, you know, really make them feel secure in the services that you are providing. And I'm going to admit that I do get phone calls and emails regarding that more should be done. And so, you know, we've talked about this. I'm going to talk about it more, but I'm hoping that, you know, if you need more in the budget, then, you know, that's accounted for. But if you're confident that these new positions that you are filling are going to help take care of that need, then I'm glad to hear that, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Therese. I have one question before I ask Senator Amanda to ask you a question. I've been receiving a lot of texts and meeting with a lot of folks. Throughout the island, there are what they call handicap or disabled parking.
Accessibility parking, sir? Accessibility parking?
There you go. That's the proper word. Okay, accessibility parking. My question is, are there adequate number at all the establishments? And I ask this because many of them, I mean, you can go right now to Revenue and Tax, and at 7 this morning, at 8 o'clock when they open up, the question is, are there adequate number of parking stalls? And everywhere else throughout the government of Guam, because I'd rather that we try to fix in-house before we go out to the public.
Okay, we'll make sure we address that, but there is supposed to be a number from the ratio is 1 to 50. So with that information, I'll definitely reach out to Mrs. Shimizu because, like you said, everyone's trying to get into revenue tax right now, right? So they
Yes.
usually don't have that big of an overflow. So I can ask her because we actually even talked about accessibility parking a while back in 2019, I believe in August. So,
All right, but other than parking, on many occasions, you have folks that are trying to get in the building. You know, normally you'd find at some businesses, you press the button and the doors open. And if they're in a wheelchair, it's kind of hard if you don't have that ability to push. So I'm just questioning, is that something that your department could go after and find ways to maybe address federal funding to assist businesses or government entities to have that
Yeah.
accessibility? I don't know if that's possible. I just thought I'd ask that question.
So the answer is yes. If they are a grant holder, then they're obligated. If you receive federal funds, you're obligated to make sure the accessibility is there for all the special needs individuals. So down to the ramp, down to accessibility parking. So that's one of the guidelines that you must have if you're federally funded. So I will, whatever other agencies serve, you want to let me know even anything that you know that we need to address that, yes, it is our agency that will go out and speak to
Okay,
them.
well, I don't want to single out revenue and tax. I just identified them as one place because there's many government agencies right now. Accessibility is terrible. And I think you've seen it yourself, but I was just curious, do you have folks specifically assigned to do that then, to go and just inspect in general?
No, sir. So
Okay.
what's been happening is it's myself and another social worker who's actually been doing that on our own.
Okay, maybe that's a position you need to have. is
Roger. Roger that,
enforcement.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Amanda Shelton, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for being here today to present your budget. It's nice to see you in person. Going off of Senator Terlahi's questions on the job coaching, I see that you've included it in your budget, so I'm glad to see that. And I'm wondering if there's any progress on hiring individuals with disabilities soon within the government of Guam. Can we anticipate the need for additional job coaches in FY 2021? I know that it is a very lengthy process. So is there anyone right now going through the process that we can maybe anticipate being hired?
Are you speaking about holding the job coach title?
No, not for the job coach. I'm talking about individuals with disabilities who will enter into the government of Guam anytime soon.
So
Is there anyone being processed at the moment or who has applied and you are helping through the process?
So as of right now, there is another individual. For now, we have two, but there's another individual currently working at another agency. So yes, that person is seeking employment. So we're working those steps, yes.
Okay, and so that individual might need a job coach in the coming fiscal year.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It just depends upon their level of ability. So ultimately, what a job coach is there for, specifically on the DVR side, you know, and that's federally funded, we don't want to exceed over 24 months. So they should be able to, purpose of a job coach is to help, besides teaching them the job skill, but at the end of the result, get the employees to have that relationship with their colleagues, their coworkers, and give them that minimum support. So that's ultimately, the job coach will definitely be winged off.
Okay.
That's the ultimate goal.
But there's no way of knowing if a job coach will be needed until they are hired and assessed.
That is until they're eligible.
Okay.
So they got to be eligible. Then the dialogue starts between government agency or whatever and the counselor, and then we also get the job coach coordinator involved and go from there.
Okay. So thank you for that. We still have the 2 job coaches budgeted for the 2 individuals with disabilities who are currently employed within separate departments.
For the employees, yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so I'm also glad to hear that you'll be able to utilize the CARES Act funding for technology upgrades. During this time of the pandemic and the shutdown, how have you been able to communicate with your clients?
So as of right now, we've been doing a lot of phone calls, but we have been receiving clients coming through our door. So even though we don't have plexiglass, it's kind of like you up there, you're that spaced apart. And unfortunately, this is where it's difficult for individuals with disability because sometimes they need that physical prompt, sometimes they need that verbal prompt, sometimes they even need, like Senator Terlahi said, the eyes, right? So what happens is there may be more than 3 people coming in the door. We won't allow them to have more than 3. It's just because of the social distancing, the 50%. So right now, the clients have been accommodating to say, okay, we understand. And we're housed in DNA. They have their own rules. So we can't just bring anyone up. We even have them to get sign in. Everything is, as we're tenants of them, we have to go by their guidelines because they're coming up to our area. They even have sinks outside to wash your hands. Every floor has oh, yes, sir. Senator Moylan knows. So, again, their guidelines that DNA already gave, they gave it to us maybe, sir, a month ago. So, and then they just updated it recently last week. So they shared with us too that, like Senator Moylan will know, they shared with us that forthcoming, meaning there's more to come.
Okay.
So we're just going by what our landlord is requiring of us also.
Okay.
And implementing the EO, the executive order.
Okay, that's good that you have those precautions in place. I'm glad that that's happening already. So do you anticipate using some of that CARES Act funding to purchase other safeguards such as the plexiglass that you may need or supplies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we already did our measurements. So again, we are currently working on the quotes. So that's all happening right now, ma'am.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both again.
Thank you.
And thank you, Senator Sheldon. Before I ask Senator Kelly, Ms. Longuero, 2 years ago, or last administration, DISID was supposed to open or move to their own location. Where is this department at now? Because I understand you're a tenant of DNA, and great building. But our understanding 3 years ago was that you were supposed to, not you, but the agency was supposed to move basically across JFK. Build a brand new DISID building and do what you need to do.
So,
Where is the agency on that or of anything?
So right now, sir, the plan is to move to Hessler. Hessler, the old building, the Hessler, the
Oh,
old
okay.
legislature. That's our plan right now. But of course, like you said, you know, the property across JFK is DVR's. So ultimately, I've shared with the governor that yes, if we can eventually move back there, build and move back there, then that's our ultimate goal.
Okay, so I'm gonna hope that your agency is gonna be looking for federal money for that, because of all the things that your agency does, you could probably get a federal grant to build the whole brand new building for you.
And that dialogue started already with GURA.
All right, thank you. Senator Therese, oversight, you have a follow-up on that one?
On the building, so you'll be paying more rent over there than you are in your current facility?
So right now, from what I know, within the city of Agana, the village of Agana, that there's a certain square footage that we go by. Is that what you're asking?
No, you're going to be moving, and I thought that building was being paid for by grants or something, but you're going to be paying according to your budget for rental space in that building?
So we haven't, can I get back to you on that answer? Because I haven't seen the MOA or MOU. So currently we just know that there's 5 agencies going there right now.
Okay, well, your request for rent went up, right? Rita, is that right? No?
The funds in the current budget is to continue the rental in the DNA building where we're at.
Okay, same amount?
Yes, it's
All
the
right.
same amount.
Oh, then my error. All right, thank you.
Okay, Senator Kelly, you have any questions, ma'am?
Suju Ismasi, Mr. Chair. One of the things that came up recently when we were having an informational briefing with the Office of Technology, so it was good to hear that they were working on ADA compliance for websites. And actually it makes sense, but it wasn't something that I had heard before. With your office, and your website. Is that something that you're actively working on? And where would you assess that you are in getting it fully ADA compliant?
So to make a short answer, the answer is yes. So Mr. Frank Lujan has reached out to us also. So everyone's reaching out to him, bottom line, right? Because of the pandemic, right? So bottom line is the answer is yes, that we're trying to move forward to make sure whatever latest technology that we receive for making our clients or our people with disabilities successful coming in, and regardless of through the doors of DNA, through the doors of DISID, but just in general of all agencies. Yes.
Again, that's good to hear. He was saying that they were nearly done making public health fully compliant. So I'm sure they will have the same success. And the more that we can do to, as you said, make it easier for the clients to make it in, the better, of course, that you'll be able to service them. And I know that's very important to you. So that's very good to hear. The other question that I had is, Senator Agustin was talking about the property across from JFK. And certainly I remember that property when it was active as well. And you were saying, I think ideally that it may be good to go back there. Now, when you and I had talked earlier, I think you were also talking about some relationships or seeking other properties. So are you just at one building now? Are there any branch offices? Or can you refresh my memory for the work that you were doing? I think you were networking with GURA and some other places. Are there other properties or sites that we should be aware of?
So, yes, ma'am. So bottom line is, like you said, I talked to Joe Borja, Land Management, and then also GURA. So we do have a project that we're trying to work on right now to eventually get the building up over across JFK from independent living. That's the thing that me and you talked about, I don't know, maybe 7 months, 8 months ago. So that's still in the works. And also speaking to GURA, trying to see if there's other lands. Just not, one of the things that a lot of constituents have is the concern of they want to make sure there's inclusion. So would they be able to branch out in Dedido? Would they be able to branch out in Talafofo? So I shared the concerns with Mr. Tapasna, and he is in support of that. And again, I'm fortunate because the deputy director is a special ed teacher. So that helps my fight of saying, we definitely want to make sure all our people with disabilities are included in the community of Guam and not just clustered in one area. However, that being said, there are certain ones that with people with disabilities that may need that additional care. And some parents are willing to say, yes, I don't mind if my child stays here because I know the care is there for them. So it just depends upon the need of what we need to provide for our individuals with disability.
It's very good to hear about those sort of plans, and definitely we need people thinking ahead like that to provide those variety of services for some that can live more independently and so forth. And so that's very important. The other question, a lot of what I was interested in has been covered in certain ways, and then I need to sort through a few others, but I'm not sure. I heard you talking about that even at one high school, there was a population of over 200 people who have these special needs. At this point, do you have an understanding of the total population and how large that total population is, and how many of them are eligible for vocational rehabilitation services?
I don't have that number, but I definitely can get it to you within the next 2 weeks. DOE did give it to me last school year, but I really don't remember, and I apologize.
And it's good to know that we can get that from DOE. I'm sure part of what they do comes up with very reliable numbers. Out in the general population, is it difficult to get an understanding of how many people might be eligible or might benefit from working with your office? Do you have any solid numbers of who you work with now, but maybe any estimates as to how many more might be able to benefit?
Okay, so Rita, you want to take that?
Yeah, beyond DOE, so in the general population. I understand it's going to be harder
Yeah.
to get numbers like that because some people perhaps will and won't be contacting your office. But do you have any general understandings of how many people might benefit from working with your office?
So meaning getting a job, or I'm sorry, ma'am. You're
Right.
talking about the
so
people
I guess
with
I'm looking for different population numbers just to kind of understand the situation. So generally, if we have any estimate at all of how many people within Guam's community of 160,000 might be those with special needs, and then how many your office is currently working with outside of DOE. So you'll be getting the numbers from DOE, but are there other numbers that you have of how many your office is working with?
So on the DVR side, it's roughly like 650, right?
Right now, we have approximately 600 eligible clients under the Division of Voc Rehab. As far as the population out there, they have to come in and they have to apply because it's DVR's focuses on getting individuals with disabilities employed. So they need to go through the process, and if they're eligible based on their needs and their disabilities, we're there to help them to be able to get them employed. So they need to come in. Of course, the ones that we have right now, each counselor, like we mentioned earlier, their caseload is anywhere from 80 to 100 with the clients that are currently being served.
So if I may I jump in? So within this school year or fiscal year 2019 to 2020, we started to do that pre-eds, what I was telling you. So we were piloting something. And the lieutenant governor was one of the individuals that was helping us pull all these government agencies to come together and try to start kind of like students that can get a job, kind of get credit. I forget what it's called. I'm really sorry. But receive credit like community-based credit when they're at the job site. So we were really fortunate that 4 agencies already came forward and said they would be able to help us with people with disabilities and start their jobs. And so we would fix the schedule for them when they're at school, so it's a job site. So for example, if they're good in math and they happen to be helping stack, then that can be a grade, a credit for their math. So with that being said, I'd like to piggyback, and we never had the opportunity to come forward and ask the senators if they'd be willing to help us help with the pre-eds and have some students come into your office and work and be your clerical for the time being, because and at the same time, like I shared at the beginning, with the help of Barbara Moffness, I was able to do a lot of training, so disability awareness. So I'm willing to do that for your offices and come forward and say, this is, and gear it towards the individual that's coming in. So when they're working with your staff member, they're successful along with the student coming in. So I just thought I'd say that because I forgot to ask. So if ever you're interested, please let us know. And again, Dr. March, you said it perfectly. It's a new norm. So we're still working out the kinks from social distancing, making sure that the students understand the concept of 6 feet and wearing the mask. Students people with disabilities, specifically autism people, their sensory issues are heightened. So they may not like to wear the mask. It's an executive order in a government building. So those are the things that we'll definitely need parents' support and training. Parents need to help us train to get our students to be successful. So when they come to the job, the workforce, we're ready. That's not even an issue. It's too easy. So I already heard from one of the parents that she worked on this already, that her child is ready to go. So that's what we need to hear, because obviously you're going to take them to the store too, right? Obviously you're going to take them in a social outing yourself. So those are the things that we definitely need parents to help with this. And again, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise. So we need everyone's support.
So to Asmasi for sharing some of those aspects, because I feel like the more that we hear, the more that we understand the budget and we understand the potential of what the office is seeking to do with its different programs, and understanding the needs of our community. So it's very good to hear that. You said that that was a pilot program. It sounds like it's ongoing, and I'm sure that the senatorial offices would like to hear more information about how they might be able to be helping not only with the budget, because of course we're going to give that its due attention and help out as best we can, but maybe be able to help out on the ground as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. We actually sent out an email in February, so if you're all okay with that, I'd send it out just to see if you're interested in helping us with the pre-ETS program and getting students in, and so we can mold them into a job with success as they become adults.
Situas Masi, Mr. Chair, I want to sort through my questions, and so I may still have some questions, but I'm deferring to the next person.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. And Phyllis, if you have a listing to help and you need my office to assist to employ, feel free to send us the email.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's talk. And I think every senator is going to want to do that. It's a matter of, we need to all work together. It's one Guam, one government, one happy family. Senator Jim, do you have any questions, sir?
Appreciate it, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like that segue into that. Appreciate it. One thing I wanted again to understand on the budget request. So basically, what you're asking for is the budget that was. You're in agreement with the Adelup's budget, all right? Your bottom line is the amount that was the governor has submitted to us pre-COVID.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. Okay, we're hoping for the best with the federal money that's coming in and the economy getting back together again, but we also know some realities of job opportunities, when our tourism is going to come back and putting people back into employment. So it's one thing to get the federal money there, but how do we get people jobs? That's what we're hoping to come about, like your department's focus is to help those with the certain needs to get jobs, but also there's the 30-some thousand that are unemployed now, and how soon can we get them back to work? That all affects our overall general fund budget. So I'm sure we would want to give the most we can for your budget requests, but there's also some realities that we have to be aware of as the special funds are adjusted, as our BBT comes in less than expected, as our employees' taxes are less. Those are the big things that we had to be aware of. So thanks. I understand now that the budget submitted is what the governor has submitted that you're working for. So I'm sure we'll all do our best, because that's really important to help our community, especially those that need our help most of all. And I understand now we have around 600 clients active, but we have more that are in schools that we can project that will eventually be our clients. So it's really a proactive approach that you're taking and reaching out to them ahead of time, which is a super plus, because then they understand what the department actually offers. And so after high school, they know who can help them out the most, and with taking advantage of these federal programs and the money. So that's a super plus, so congratulations on that. You mentioned working with GDOL as well. And I'm wondering with those, we're concerned with the adults that may or may not want to take advantage of a DISID program, right? Do we also find that some of these adults therefore go directly to GDOL and get their services? Or is there any, and with that, are there some duplications of services, or just does GDOL send those clients, customers, or residents to DISID for assistance?
So to answer, it's all the above you just said. So DOL may send them to us. DOL may help them get a job. And from me being in this position since April 2019, I have not seen a duplication of services for a client from DOL to a client to us. I have not seen that, and Ms. Sotomayor has the background of it. Have you ever seen that as duplicate of service?
If they can be serviced through DOL, and because, the applicant, they need to want to come in for DVR services. Sometimes, because they have to submit their application through DVR. But if they can get a job, a lot of them are very independent. They want to get a job on their own without having to go through the services of a counselor. So if they can get employed there, then they'll do that. If not, if they're needing the assistance of voc rehab, then they certainly will come over, and DOL, I would think, would send them in our direction.
Yeah. And that's also with the private sectors of profit organizations such as PHRS and ICANN. So if an individual with disability goes and wants to apply, they automatically get a job from them. They don't have to necessarily come through our doors. That's the biggest thing. If you read our mission, it's ultimately setting anybody up for independence. That's what we want them to do, that they're able to go and apply on their own and be able to, again, we're the bridge for that.
Oh, okay, that's understandable, and that's really good. So that's the ultimate, I guess, right? And then if not, then DISID will be there to assist them. So though you had the 600 existing clients, your main focus with the pre-X, is that correct?
Correct, sir. Pre-X.
Right? Is proactive to get our young adults, those graduating from school, to get them able to find their job upon graduation, whether it be going directly through GDOL or further assistance with DISID.
Correct, sir.
Correct? Okay, so I like that plan. Just one other question is, and it's been discussed, but your move to our old legislative building, and then the discussion about moving across JFK when that eventually is built. And then there was the discussion about parking, handicap parking, special needs parking, and that old building, those centralized, we have so many agencies that will be working out of that building. And the total space may be large enough, maybe not, but the parking I would think that whole front parking would be reserved for those that have difficulty, right, in walking distance. But to add with your employees parking, and I think GDOL is also going to move there as well, one of their sections. I don't know the total number of government employees that will be working out of that building, and where you folks will park, and then to the parking for the actual customers that we want to serve, the community that we want to serve. Is there a plan, or do you foresee a difficulty of this? Is this being discussed?
It is being discussed. That has been brought up. Mr. Lester Carlson and I have talked about that. So we are working that piece, sir. That is, yes, we are.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
what you're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Jim. Senator Kelly, do you have a follow-up question, ma'am?
Sijuis Masi, Mr. Chair. I did want to ask about the federal funding. So I know that the chair asked a bit about the federal funding, that it's important for us to understand it so that we make sure that the local matching is provided for and so forth. In the past, there have been years where substantial amounts of federal funding have been sent back. And so just checking in on how we're doing for FY 2019 and FY 2020, how is that going? In 2010, records show that there was $710,000 that was sent back. And in 2013, it was actually 2 million. So I know that you inherited a lot of things that were already in motion. But for FY 2019, were we able to maximize using those federal funds? And how are we doing for this year's funding as well? Given that, we do know we have these COVID-19 challenges that may have interfered.
Yes, we've been returning, it's actually called a reallotment process. And what it is unfortunately, the funding that we receive is not based on, like, for example, as we go through the budget, we're looking at like what we spend this year, and then we may need more next year. But in the VR process, there's a formula grant that they give to us, but the way they give it, it's not based on how we spend our funds. We've even asked, because we don't want to look like we're returning money, but what happens is it's called a reallotment process. And during that reallotment each year, if there's funds from all states that they are unable to match or possibly not be able to spend, it's that time that they give those funds back through the reallotment. So it could be used in other states who need it. At the same time, during the reallotment, if we needed more money, we could actually go in and request for it. So with us, like I was saying, the way they distribute the federal dollars, it's not based on how we spend. So sometimes we're getting a higher amount on the grant, and we already know that we still have carryover. So all of these things are taken into consideration, because as we go through the budget, like for now, this year, for example, we're given a ceiling. Within that ceiling, we have to work with the other division who is funded 100% through the general fund or the special fund. So when we're doing the budget and they may be in need of funding, we're not given a separate ceiling. Even though it shows when you give the budget that you're putting $2,085,000 or a federal dollar, we may not really stick with that amount that is being shown on the budget request. So we go with the match that we can have based on the ceiling. And whatever we cannot match, we do have to reallot. But we always have funds throughout the year. And yes, you're correct. We gave a very high amount back in 2012 and 13. At the time, we had hired an administrator from off island, and she saw the need to just use the carryover funds rather than accepting additional grant funds in 1 year. So you have 2 grants going on concurrently. So rather than accepting the grant, she returned everything but $800,000, because that year we received 2.8. She returned $2 million so that she can use the carryover funds. So yes, we do have, this year we are operating with carryover 2019 funds. And then as we're budgeting for 2021, we're looking at the needs in the other divisions as well. So whatever the 364 that we're putting in for, that is what we're going to try to work with. But as the 2021, as we enter that, there are times when we need to decrease that match as well during the year if the other division so needs the funding. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that helps provide information so that we're understanding your landscape and hopefully figuring out ways that we can be working together to help optimize. So with the federal funding, it sounds like, as you were explaining, that it's based on a formula. And so that formula, is it based on the known population, or is it based on the federal government outlining certain perceived needs and then just distributing it that way? If you could help us understand that a
I was
little
told it
bit.
was like the population, but then, we see an increase. It's just in their distribution, how they give to every state. And sometimes I see that we don't, I'm surprised, like in some instances, we've received more. Like sometimes we've received $3 million when they know that we've only spent like maybe 1.5 in the previous year. So that's the reason why they expect those federal dollars to be returned to those states who need it during that time. I did ask that question, and as far as maybe just giving us so we're not criticized for reallocating, but they said our grantor is not able to disseminate the funding that way. That's why they have that process. And it's not really, we don't like to call it returning. It's just, it's there. We never really establish it or put it into our account. We should know already by August each year how much we can reallot. And some of the times we're just reallotting, like right now for this fiscal year, we already know that we're going to have to reallot because we weren't able to match it anyways. But we're still, it's not like we're lacking. We have sufficient funds to service clients. The individuals with disabilities that we do serve in the population, we've never returned funds that would hamper services to clients. We've always had sufficient is what I'm saying.
And that part is important. We want to make sure, of course, that we're providing
Yes.
those kinds of services. So with the reallotment, perhaps at times, and maybe you've thought of this already, but if we do want to optimize, it's good to hear that it's never to a degree that's hampering services, that the services are being able to be met. But if there are opportunities to optimize, whether it's finding the matching funds or more staff, please keep that in mind.
Yes. Well, we're very fortunate this year, like our director was saying, we are hiring additional staff. We had the interview in March for 3 additional counselors, so that will certainly help us. And plus we have 5 other GG1s that are down at DOA now that we're going to be working with them and so that they can recruit. That includes an additional counselor, higher level counselor. There's 2 additional counselors besides the 3 that we just interviewed. And we have, we need the admin support staff as well. So we've got 2 secretary GG1s that have already been received by DOA. And a total of about 5 additional positions plus the 3 that we just interviewed for. So that's like 8 people, additional staff coming in.
That's very good to hear, that those 8 staff will possibly allow us to be able to utilize those funds even more so and just continue to increase. So that's very positive, and it's very good to hear that from you, so thanks for sharing that. Sejus Masi for coming back to me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Therese.
Thank you. I just want to follow up one more time on your office moving over to Hessler Street or Avenue. And okay, so I'm reading a January 2020 article from the Post, I believe, yeah. And it says that they are spending $1 million in grant money in renovations to ensure compliance with laws regarding accessibility for people with disabilities and help get the individual offices prepared for use in addition to other needs. And you said you don't have an MOA yet with this building?
They already have one, I just haven't seen it yet. So yes, I've been told by Gita they have it.
No, what about you? For you to move there?
Correct.
They're counting on you moving in there.
Yes.
and they're supposedly fixing it up, spending quite a bit of money to fix the place up for you to occupy it with your clients, right?
Correct.
So, yeah, I'm just wondering if how ready that is, if the CARES money should be spent to just move you now and get it all ready, and, or, you know, as
So-
opposed to setting your current facility up and then moving. But, yeah, I guess I'm also curious, and do you have an MOA with GIDA for the Upper Tumon land across JFK to be
Yes.
rented out?
No, no, no. The one across JFK, no, we don't. They actually met with both of us and had asked what direction we want to go to with the land there, and that's when I asked to meet with also GURA, because, you know, ultimately we're trying to get independent living homes. And so, like I said earlier, talking to the director of GURA, that, you know, we're trying to work on a project there to make sure that we have homes for people with disabilities that accessible to whatever their needs are, their spina bifida, you know, whatever it is, that it's geared towards their disability. So that's the dialogue that I've been having, whether it be a home for people with disability or building an office. But that's why I reached out to Ray DePasna, HUD, the GURA section.
All right, so it's not your understanding that GIDA has been instructed or directed to lease that property out on your behalf?
We're still in dialogue with that. Yes, Gita is the one that asked me, would you consider swapping, leasing, or building? And I told him, can you give me till February 2020? And then everything happened so quickly because, again, I'm having that dialogue with the director of GURA, and then I'm sorry, not February, March. He said, can we get together? Because I know that he was trying to reach out to some of the senators here and have that conversation, because whether we swap, build, or lease, at least it gives us opportunity for us to come back to the table. So those are the three options they asked me. Do we want to swap land? Do we want to build on it? Or do we want to lease it? So when I spoke to Ray, that's what we're trying to do. We're just basically trying to say, if we're going to build on it, would you be able to give us, back to what the chairman said, hey, do we have federal grant monies to help build? And as of right now, when I spoke to Mr. Tapasna, he said that's a possibility. That's why I went and spoke to him.
All right, but you're also taking into consideration the original purpose
Correct.
for why DISID has that property in the
Yes.
first place, voc rehab.
Yes.
What about, and so I guess why I keep asking about this lease over here is if you're going to save any money by moving in there, it says part of it was supposed to be, you know, based on a grant that they had received or some kind of federal arrangement. But if you are going to, you know, I hope that DISID will also benefit from that, and that you could then use the funds to increase your personnel, your counselors or your social workers this year immediately, in fact, so that you can take care of those people that are in need of services. Especially now, I just think it's more complicated with the, you know, complex social distancing. You're going to need to really reach out more. I don't know.
Okay,
But I hope that DISID doesn't get a bad deal, I guess, is what I'm trying to make. The bottom line is, yes, you should, you know, if your move should be beneficial to you.
Okay.
So I'm hoping it will be very beneficial to your clients that way.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, that being said, and Ms. Young-Guerrero, I'm also the oversight for GURA, so I'll be reaching out to Mr. Tapasna to make sure that something can be worked out for DISID.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to take care of our challenged folks, would be the proper word, right?
Appreciate
And
it, sir.
there being no other questions to be asked, this committee will conclude the budget hearing on DISID. The committee will continue to receive testimony for the next few days. Please address your testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Agustin at gmail.com. Tizuz Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing, Ms. Leongro and your staff. And for those at home, thank you for watching the budget hearing on Bill 282-35 LS relative to the Department of Integrated Service for Individuals with Disabilities is now adjourned at 10:25. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, too.